Hi, it's Amelia Bourdeau from Exante Data. I write the Week in Review. We're going to go over a few points in the note, and I'm going to show you a couple extra charts that were not in the note. Let's start. Okay, this is one of our charts, FX betas to S&P moves. I did put this chart in the Week in Review. And Jens wants me, our founder Jens Nordvig, to point out to you that, of course, FX betas, at least on Friday, are elevated to the benchmark beta. So the betas on Friday is the 22nd of January, the blue columns, the benchmark from 2018 through the 21st of January 2021 are the gray bars. And you can see that the betas for Friday were a bit elevated. We had equities lower, the dollar consolidated, and maybe investors, given these betas, are a bit nervous. Now I'm moving on to a chart that was not in the weekend review. This is an extra chart. So it's the same chart, but from the start of the year. It's FX betas to moves in the S&P 500. So the blue columns are now betas from January 1st, 2021 to the 22nd of January. And you see the same thing holds true. The betas for FX are elevated compared to the benchmarks, which is the gray column. And this is especially true for the Colombian peso, Naki against euro, Kiwi, and lira. Okay, we're going to look at one more chart that wasn't in the weekly. US dollar performance to composition. So we're on our website, FX Analysis. Choose dollar performance to composition. It's going to come up in a couple seconds. And here we go. So this is the US dollar relationship to risk. And that's the S&P week on week percent change across the x-axis there. And the yellow triangle is the latest read. So for the week last week, US equities did rise and the US dollar did decline. So the performance of the dollar last week was pretty much in line with the standard relationship to risk. And I should note that this is the dollar performance once the effective interest rates have been removed. Turning back to the week in review, last week was the ECB meeting, and senior advisor Chris Marsh on our team is a noted ECB watcher. So he wants people to know that he thinks that during the press conference, Lagarde created what he calls an unnecessary communication challenge by emphasizing the concept of the flexible financing condition approach to the purchases. Now, the problem is that the FFC is not a concept that's easily quantified, but of course, markets like certainty and clarity, and so does the media. And so I think Lagarde kind of got herself in a little bit of a bind there in her attempts to say something but not too much. So take a look at what Chris says the ECB may do going forward in our Week in Review note. Turning to our coronavirus update, you can see all of our COVID charts updated daily on our Twitter account at Exante Data, so please follow us there. But last week, Bloomberg said that Pfizer announced renovation to its Belgian facility and that would take some capacity for vaccine shipments offline temporarily, and then they'd be able to have more capacity later on. So on January 19th, the AP reported that Canada said it will not receive any vaccine shipments from Pfizer this coming week, which is the week of January 25th, and that it will receive 50% less than expected over the next month, though I guess Pfizer does still plan to meet its contractual obligation to ship 4 million doses to Canada by the end of March. The EU also experienced a temporary reduction in Pfizer vaccines, and they're supposed to be back on schedule this coming week, January 25th. You've probably seen reports over the weekend that AstraZeneca is having difficulty in meeting their deadlines for the European Union. On Friday, the European Commissioner for Health and Safety did tweet out that AstraZeneca announced delays in its delivery of vaccines to the European Union compared to the forecast of what they had expected for the first quarter of 2021. Turning to the UK coronavirus press conference on Friday, it was given mostly by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He did not have good news, unfortunately. I encourage you to watch the press conference because it was very informative. So Prime Minister Johnson came out and said that it appears, he's talking about the new variant in the United Kingdom. It appears to be, one, spreading more quickly, which we knew, but also it may be associated, unfortunately, with a higher degree of mortality. So this is not good news. He suggested that the new strain is the reason why the NHS is under such intense pressure. And he noted that COVID hospitalizations are now 78% higher than their first peak back in April. So the UK obviously previously has announced its plan to vaccinate 4 priority groups, which represent 15 million people who are the most vulnerable. And they want to do this by mid-February. So we have a couple charts in the week in review looking at the pace of vaccination in the United Kingdom. It looks like right now they're falling a little bit short of that mid-February goal. So they have to pick up the pace of vaccines, but we explain it more fully in the note. I'm taking you now to kind of our media section, our kind of more public-facing work. So what I'm showing you in the week in review and here in our Substack blog, Money Inside and Out, is a very small portion of what we do. But this is our Substack blog, Money Inside and Out, and it's kind of a vehicle for us to interact with the public on large macroeconomic themes that we debate and we discuss here. So you can find it at moneyinsideandout.exantidata.com/welcome. Sign up, it's free. If we want to take a look at what we've been doing, we just wrote a blog this week on the mechanics of central bank digital currency issuance. This was written by our senior advisor, Chris Marsh. He's also, if you remember from the start, our ECB watcher. And so it's a really interesting article. He takes you through a thought process of how central banks could include digital currencies on their balance sheets. The first blog, we have 2 blogs on central bank digital currencies, was written here, and it's by our head of Asia Pacific, Grant Wilson. It's on China's digital currency. It's called China's Digital Currency is a Game Changer. So these themes are evolving. We'll write more on them. And you can see why this is so important to us in our Week in Review note. We did survey our institutional hedge fund clients on digital currency. So take a look and see what they said. Our head of Asia Pacific, Grant Wilson, also spoke on a podcast that was just released on Friday. It's the Wisdom Tree ETF podcast. It's called Behind the Markets, and it's hosted by Jeremy Schwartz of Wisdom Tree. And this is one of the few opportunities you will have to hear a couple of our macro views in conversation in an in-depth way. So check it out. Grant also talks digital currencies later on, also in this same podcast. And once again, I'm Amelia Bourdeau. You can interact with me on Twitter at @exantidata in New York market hours. So I'll be especially in New York mornings. I'm on the feed and I'm talking markets, market charts, and also our COVID research on Twitter. So check it out, subscribe to our Twitter, and interact with me. Thanks for sticking with me. Have a good week ahead.